dream walking? Well, I did. Did you ever hear a dream talking? Well, I did.
Australia can be an unexpected country, but of course, a gentleman should show no surprise.
Oh, it's so grand, and it's too divine. Did you ever see a dream dancing? Well, I did.
The Australian said to be the world's last free man.
Oh, dear.
Which must go for Australian women too. They don't take their jobs too seriously here, though they work hard enough at their leisure. And there's no social stigma about the way money's earned, no race memory of unemployment or hunger marches, so they'll drive out of a job in the morning, knowing there's another one waiting for them in the afternoon. Without hesitation, they'll change the direction of their lives. A Melbourne clerk will go fossicking in the outback, a Sydney interior decorator become a mobile Gold Coast char. Australians like people to be ordinary and not, as they say, la-di-bloody-da. But with frontier society memories, they believe in giving it a go. So we're meeting 5 unconventional outsiders who, if they can't find a follower to carry their buckets, are going it alone and well out of the rut. Like Sylvia Handorf, aged 29 and very much better known as Sadie the Cleaning Lady. Selling her services for 25 bob an hour.
Thank you, Ellen.
6-foot Sadie's cleaning up at Surfers Paradise, Queensland's holiday centre. Her overheads are down to a minimum. 18 bikinis, 1 bucket, 1 mop.
I must say, you're not a bit like my child lady at home.
Oh, well, you know, this is Surfers Paradise for you, not England.
Yeah?
All our cleaners look like this.
You see, anyone would think that it was just a gimmick, that it was a publicity thing.
It is a gimmick, darling, it is. I'm a gimmick. You see, what I wear is a gimmick. But this pays off, you know, this is your business, and you must have a gimmick in a business.
But you've been doing this for 4 years now.
That's right, and I've got 4 girls working for me and a man. And, you know, so the gimmick is paying off because I started with nothing. And I'm not doing too bad now. Lucky and I get my E-type, I think I'll be doing very well.
You see, where do you go from here? You're going to be Mrs. Mop on and on?
No, I don't think I'll be Mrs. Mop always, but then I'll let fate work its own way out. I don't plan my fate. I didn't know, if you would have asked me 8 years ago, I was an interior decorator. And I married, and next minute my husband was killed and I had a little daughter, so I came away here to start a new life. It's the only job I could think of where I could take my daughter with me and not have a boss and start with a tin of Ajax and a Wet-Ex. No money.
What about the other girls? Are they in your league, as far as looks are concerned?
Oh, no, they're
See,
very attractive.
one feels you're just the decoration and they do the work.
No, this is not true. I'm the best worker.
Are you?
I'm the biggest and the strongest. And I've had more experience than the others. This I'm sort of classed as Sadie the cleaning lady, and Sadie. You know, she works hard, and this is all. A lot of respect from everybody. So it's beautiful. I meet beautiful people, like you, for instance, you see.
If a bachelor engages you to look after his flat, don't they occasionally chase you around the veranda?
Oh, I've had a funny episode, yes, and I hit him with a squeegee.
My golly.
The place was full of fleas, and I rang up and I said, your unit's full of fleas. And he said, I'll be there in 10 minutes. In 10 minutes he arrived. We walked into the bedroom and not one flea crawled on his leg, and there was thousands of them there earlier. So he stood and he looked at me and he said, I know why you've got me here. I said, darling, it's not like that at all. And he said, oh, it is like this. I said, I've never been like this before. And he went over the bed, under the bed, around the bed. Anyway, I grabbed one of my squeegee mops and I just said, stay where you are, you know, please.
Bash.
And bash, and that was it.
Sadie, vigorous cleaning lady, a pin-up with a business. A business with pin-ups is run by Gareth Powell, who once published Fanny Hill in London and then had to stand up for her when charged at Bow Street. Now this son of a Welsh miner's crossed the world to publish paperbacks and magazines, some bosomy, some serious, here in Sydney, where he finds Australian censors even harder to handle. He has a slight problem with his public, too.
Australians don't like successes, they really don't.
Why is that?
I don't know, it's this, you know, they call it the nation of knockers. They actually hate to see somebody make it good. I've been declared bankrupt by people, you know, sort of every week since I've been here. I'm going bust Or I still haven't gone bust, but they'd like me to. If I went bust tomorrow, I'd never have to buy myself another meal in Australia. You know, I'd just dine out forever because they'd be so happy. So that's a problem. And then, of course, you've got censorship, which I get, I forget how many types of censorship here, but I once counted up to about 38.
But if you're producing girly magazines, you're going to have trouble anywhere, presumably, anywhere in the world, apart from Copenhagen, perhaps.
No, that's not true. It's, in England, you have an act which is fairly easy to understand. Here, you can't judge the censorship, what is going to happen. You can have some guidelines, and I've got quite expert at it. But Darcy in Ireland, you know, his last book was knocked off by the post office because a parrot swore. I print in Hong Kong, which makes it very difficult. They don't like that. I have to go, first of all, through the customs. Now, the customs can knock you off anything. An example, one of them phoned me up fairly recently, and he said, good day, Mr. Powell. I said, good day. I've got slight problems, page 73. He said, oh, you look at page 73. And I said, and it's like a nude girl dancing, and it's a psychedelic swirl. You can hardly see the girl. And I said, yes. He said, well, look, there's a shadow there. I know it's not pubic hair. You know it's not pubic hair, but an unsuspecting teenager might think it was pubic hair. So it's obscene. A sergeant in Victoria, in the Vice Squad, was going on about one of the magazines. He said, this cartoon's obscene. And the cartoon, I promise you, it was just a girl on a desert island with a sailor and his boat, a rescue boat. And she's got a hand over the sailor's mouth so he can't yell for help. It's not that funny, it wasn't even that well drawn, but that was it. And I said, well, what's obscene? He said, look at her dress. Now, she was fully clothed in what you call a midi. You know, it came down to there. And I said, yes. Well, look at the hemline. Now, the hemline was desert island zigzag, like that, see? And I said, yes. He said, well, look, Gareth. If a girl is on a desert island with a sailor long enough for the hem of her dress to get ragged, it's obvious that fornication has taken place. And it gets, that's, you know, up to there it's quite funny, but then it gets worse, because I said to him, okay, we'll get rid of the cartoon. He said, now wait a minute, Gareth, you've played along with me, I'm going to play along with you. You get your artist to make the girl coloured and there'll be no objection. It does get a little difficult.
Now, what about other pictures? I mean, what's his criteria of what's okay and what isn't okay?
A Vice Squad Sergeant is in a peculiar position in that in Victoria he knows pretty well, and nearly true in New South Wales, that if he takes it to court he must win.
Can you not appeal?
I tried it. The customs stopped the magazine coming in, basically because of Barbarella. They impounded the magazine, so I got them under an act of unlegal restraint of my goods, and I issued summons to all the customs officers, which was great. They thought it was very unfair, you know. They said, that's a bit of a crook deal. And I hoped I'd get him into the dock, but the judge said no. Well, I went there, and it was just high farce. I mean, there's the counsel for the defense, the customs counsel, said this magazine has an undue emphasis on secondary sexual characteristics. And the judge said that, and what, pray, secondary sexual characteristics? Breasts, blood, thank you, continue. And you know, it went on and on. And then the judge gave his summing up, and he just went right out. Obviously had an undue emphasis on sex. And he said he didn't know what Barbarella was about, but if he did, he'd think it would be about lesbianism, which was a bit awkward because the film was showing about 3 blocks down the road. And we lost.
Now, you're giving me some very convincing arguments for not being a publisher in Australia.
Yes, but they're not convincing arguments for not living in Australia, which is a different thing. And I am a publisher. I live in Australia, and it may be a tough scene, but that's all I can do.
Pretty easy. You try.
There can't be many women miners, so meet Tessie, Teresa Vera Alfonsi. Born 62 years ago in northern Italy, Tessie came to Australia when she was 6, since when she's made a deep impression on the place, usually with gelignite. After a lifetime mining the outback, Tessie's struck it reasonably rich, for beryllium from this mine goes into the nose cones of rockets. She's so emphatic, not even dynamite, one feels, would dare trifle with Tessie.
Keep away from that edge up there, please.
You think that we'll be fairly safe here? You've never lost a miner yet.
I've never had an accident, touch wood.
You realise your cigarettes are under that lot, don't you?
No, my cigarette's not harmed. I love rocks, and that's all there is to it. I mean, there's nothing fantastic about it. It's the way I like things, and that's all there is to it.
Somebody was telling me...
you're coming too close.
Somebody... I am?
No.
You frightened me?
No, frightened of nobody. No, that camera, I don't like it too close.
Somebody was telling me that you must be worth about £1 million.
Don't you believe this? No. Oh, no, people get wrong ideas about things. I mean, I've got a few mines. I've got, fairly extensive deposits.
Well, not many women can say that.
And I'm not, I wouldn't say I was broke.
But look, you've got a £1,000 diamond ring tucked away there somewhere, yes.
Well, I work with that.
Do you?
But why not? I have a watch with 120 diamonds in it, and I broke that only just recently, working out on the rocks, and I haven't had time to mend it. And my pearls are over £100 worth. They're still $100. I still think in pounds. And I wear them all out working, always.
Tessie's second husband, a boyish Italian, worked for her for 11 years.
We were engaged for 2 years, and because of the difference in the age, which is quite a difference, there's 24 years difference, I sort of felt that I wanted him first to see if he found somebody that he liked better. I used to write his love letters for him to his girlfriends before this, because he couldn't write English. And then I sent him on a trip to Italy to see if he could find somebody that he liked better. He could have stayed for at least 6 months, and he was back in 3 weeks. So this is it.
Wow, you really gave him every opportunity.
Oh, definitely. I give everybody an opportunity. I never push people.
Is there anything you can't do out here?
No, I think that...
Is there anything you need a man for?
No. No. Only as a husband.
Yes, that's reasonable. I would have thought that life here, for a woman, even for an Australian pioneer, can be fairly rough and can be quite dangerous.
Well, no, I guess it could be dangerous, but I'm not afraid. I'm not frightened of anything or anyone, because I have guns. I have 3 or 4 guns, and I have this, which helps me all the way through. I've been chickened on the place. I've had sabotaging
What do you mean
to the machinery.
I've been chickened? What does that mean?
Well, this means that, pardon me, I had a car pull in here one night after the men. I had 8 men at the time. I had a car pull in. I opened my door up and pointed the gun at them, but at that time, when the car lit up, I found that I had another car behind me. They were all together, therefore they were here for no good. But when they seen my gun and I got out, boy, they really started going. Actually, I shot at them all the way around the road there, at their car. Not to hurt them. No, I wouldn't hurt anybody.
You wouldn't?
But just to let them know that I meant business, and I did do this.
Have other people been here?
Oh, many, but you see, I always keep a fast car for that reason, that after 4 o'clock, nobody's welcome on the place. This has gone on all the time. When I was living here on my own, the men would whistle before they came up from their huts if they were living on the place, and they'd always come up in pairs.
Otherwise, bang.
Oh, my jolly word.
Here's someone who was shot quite recently, who started betting at the age of 11 and now bets in thousands. Hollywood George, professional gambler. He operates under an unusual disadvantage. He's been banned from every racecourse in the world for life. An enterprising man, he pursues his chosen business by the use of vantage points, a radio and binoculars. Called Hollywood George because he's a natty dresser who carries a change of shirt, he came up against the Australian Jockey Club when he enjoyed a run of good luck that went on for 8 months. They thought he'd bribe the jockeys or maybe dope the horses. So now he must operate at a respectable distance. Australian races are not televised, so runners in fast cars place his bets, and he hires telephones in garages. Some of his horses must come in, for George Edser enjoys a stylish stockbroker's life with his elegant wife and children in a posh harbourside suburb. Everyone's happy, except maybe the Jockey Club.
Well, they were concerned about me backing so many winners. They thought that someone to be backing so many winners would have to have something in his favour, like...
You were bribing the jockeys or you were drugging the horses?
Jockeys pulling horses or...
I'm told that you were shot. But you were shot in the behind.
No, that's wrong. I was shot in the stomach and it came out my behind.
It's a very penetrating shot.
Yeah, but the Australian papers seem to like to say that I was shot in the behind. I don't know what their reasons for. They knew where I got shot.
Anyhow, you got shot in the stomach, and why do you think it was?
Well, I got no idea. I got no idea. It was suggested over gambling, but it wasn't. I don't think it was anything to do with gambling at all.
You see, gambling is a rough game, Max. They play for keeps.
Yes, it's a rough game if you're going badly, but it's a great game if you're going well. I bought a horse called the Corsican. I've got this £8,000 put away to put on him, and we get to Warwick Farm, and it's the first race, which is a bad betting race as a rule. Half the bookmakers hadn't got up, and there was about 10 minutes to go, and he'd blown from 6 to 1 to 14 to 1. Anyway, I had 3 or 4 of my friends there to put the money on. Anyway, we got the 8,000 on average, about 9 to 1 for the 8,000. And he jumped out from 26 alley and led all the way, won by a nose. From that day on, I won for about 3 months and won over £250,000 in a trot. Well, of course, I've had bad days too. I went to Randwick one day. I think I could afford to have lost about £120,000. Because I was going quite well, it was quite a good bank to have. And if anyone had said to me before I went to the races that you'd lose the 120 and a bit more, I'd have laughed at them, you know. So I went as quietly as I could. I had 5,000 on the thing, and the first got beaten. And from there on, I lost 120,000 and owed 60. I lost 180,000 on the one day. People have said to me, "Oh, you're a big gambler, or you're a big punter." Well, I said, I'm no bigger than any of the punters that go to the races and put their last 10 shillings on. I'm no bigger gambler than what they are.
You can become a unit trust investor for as little as $50.
This live radio programme with this unusual cleargyman, our last loner, is on the air for more than 3 hours every day. On such open line shows, listeners telephone in for cosy public chats.
Radio Sydney, it's now 4 minutes past 1, and we return to the Roger Bush Show.
I'd just like to say that the open line program for me is absolutely marvellous. I can listen to everybody's hopes and thoughts. And
counsellors on open line programmes like this Methodist minister offer homespun Christmas cracker psychology, which must fill some need, for callers hang on for hours to be put through, to have their thoughts and problems aired and considered by the Reverend Bush with his reassuring mic-side manner.
But just that urge to be able to talk to somebody has made me listen every day. I never miss a programme.
Well, thank you for being so kind, and thank you very much. Yes, Alan, you want to...
Before you take another call, could I ask you your opinion? Why do you think people want to talk to you? I mean, do you regard yourself, for example, as more of an entertainer than a minister?
No, basically I see myself as a clergyman. And I try in all my comment to get the Christian ethic into what I have to say, and I make myself available to answer queries, to counsel and to help. And this is the primary function, I think. That I'm an entertainer, in that sense, is a secondary, it's a second arrow to the bow, if you like.
But what about these people who call in? You see, there must be a certain amount of exhibitionism in this desire to expose one's troubles in public.
I think sometimes this does happen at the very beginning, but as the conversation goes on the phone, I think both of us tend to forget that there's either a microphone or other people listening. It becomes an intimate relationship. For me it does.
But you see, they could call you as a minister at your own mission and talk to you.
And believe me, they do. I mean, I'm hardly off the phone all day.
Therefore, they want their problems known, and they want their problems known by hundreds of thousands of people.
I don't think so. I think sometimes you catch somebody on the edge and they want to talk to you in a hurry.
But I still find it rather curious that people should want to undress in public.
Well, I think if you had an open line in England, you'd probably find I would do the same thing. For people are people, and people have a basic need. And I think, frankly, we fulfill that need.
Well, but what you're offering, it seems to me, is a certain instant wisdom. You're offering an immediate opinion, immediate advice on any subject under the sun.
Well, not quite like that, Alan. The secret of counselling is not to offer somebody the advice. It would be terribly easy if you could come to some all-wise, all-omnipotent being and say, do this and life will work. You don't say that. What you have to do is to try and help people to find the answer within themselves. And this is the technique of counselling, and this is the purpose of counselling.
You see, even I notice your helping hand page in the Sunday paper. You're saying you don't regard yourself as an entertainer. This is published in a rather sensational tabloid paper. I see the headline here, depraved sex orgies shocked to neighbour. What help do you think this is to people?
Well, in that particular instance, here was an old fellow who really was shocked because of something that was happening in an empty house near where he was. He wanted to retain his anonymity. He wouldn't go to the police himself. And this was one way I had of sort of pointing the thing up in that same area and warning parents that this sort of thing can and does happen. Alan, I would write in Playboy if I thought that I could get across to people the sort of things that I believe in. Because I said to you, basically, I'm a parson.
But basically today, like many other people with these open-end programs, open-line programs, you are regarded as an entertainer, I would have thought. People listen to you for hours.
Yes, that doesn't worry me.
Not at all. I'm an entertainer.
No, I mean, I think, quite frankly, that this is where the church ought to be. And obviously, 2GB think the same as well.
I just wondered if when people call in and you advise them without responsibility, apart from the instant satisfaction
I'm
which
sorry,
they
I
have...
take issue on the word without responsibility, because I do accept the responsibility for what I say, and it weighs pretty solidly on my conscience.
But they're not your patients, you see, and you don't even know their names.
That's fair enough, but they are people, and they're of prime importance to me as a clergyman.
From the listener's point of view, apart from the immediate satisfaction of being on the air and of being heard by hundreds of thousands of people, what actual benefit do you think they get out of it if they can't sleep at night?
Well, I can't answer that altogether. I can only say that one gives of oneself as much as one can. One can do very little more. And if you do it honestly and sincerely, I think you fulfill the purpose. And I think sometimes in the loneliness of the night, just a word is a comforting thing. Have you ever been alone? Have you ever been frightened? Well, and somebody's spoken to you. Have you ever talked to yourself as you've walked down the street in the dark?
No.
Have you whistled in the dark?
No, not really, no.
What do you do when you're alone in the house? Do you ever talk to yourself?
No.
You're a pretty competent, well-adjusted person. If you had lost somebody close to you and you're alone and the world gets on you, you want to hear another voice talking not in general, but to you. And that fulfills a function, believe you me.
The person that benefits mainly is the PMG department.
Hadn't thought about that. Hadn't thought about that.
I have thought many times. And I've always been wanting and waiting for the opportunity to point this out. People, I find, are so very gullible. And there aren't, by listening to your sessions on very, very odd occasions, there aren't very, very many people in our community. I think they have more wishbone than backbone. If I can't work out my own salvations, you nor anybody else can't work them out for me.
Well, now, can I ask you a quick question, because we're coming up to the news? It's rather remarkable, of course, that you use the media of the open line to express your opinion and to retain your anonymity, isn't it?
I don't think so.
And I wasn't being sarcastic.
Now, I'm not being sarcastic, but you've heard of Jack, that fellow who's jack of all trades and master of none?
Yes.
I think that applies very, very well to you.
Well, thank you very much. That was delightful of you to ring.